the introduction of the team. Yeah, Andy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I will do it very quickly. So I'm Andy, based in Zurich, working at MuleSoft in the professional services team, and doing it since what is it, like 5 years, just like MuleSoft projects most of the time in the DACH region, so mainly Germany and Switzerland.
Nice. Thank you, Andy. So my name is Amir Khan. Also super excited to be part of this meetup today. You can see at Andy's title, it's API artist and API activist, because I'm quite new to MuleSoft since 8 months in. Before I was more in the agile project management or DevOps area. And now joining MuleSoft, learning about APIs, a great journey so far, and happy to be here and happy to talk about the current trends in the market. As mentioned already, so it took us a couple of time to prepare these trends. So we invested some time around 3 to 4 weeks to research a lot in the internet, but also see what our customers are using, what we are seeing in the field, and then come up with, I think it's 12 or 16, I don't remember it exactly. I think it's 12 trends we have identified. And we will then drill down into those top 5 later on. But before we drill down into the trends itself, we want to really know what the community members are using. So this is already the first part of the community trends, where you are going to now tell us what the different aspects and different implementation on APIs, protocol, technologies you have been using over the last 2 years, and what do you think is the trend going to be? So it's really collecting the current state of the community who is dialed in today. So let's get out your phone, please, and if you would scan this QR code, you will land on a Mentimeter survey, where you can then answer already the first question. And let me see if it works. So we have the validation here. Okay, so now let's see already if we can go to this Menti here. Oh, it's already going on. So if you missed to scan the QR code, let me quickly show you here. So either you can scan it now, or there's another option where you can just type menti.com and enter this code, which is also represented here on the Menti itself. Here, so menti.com, enter the code, and that's it. Yeah? So we can see already the first question is about what type of project setup do you work in. We want to collect this information from you. So I was expecting exactly this. I'm a bit of surprised that we don't have any traditional projects, because I believe you have still in organizations, especially the large organization, they still have applications which are being developed or developed in a traditional way, maybe because they have not adopted agile yet, or maybe they are in a validated environment like pharma industry, where you have to keep validated processes. And but Andy, what's your opinion on this? What you see here?
Yeah. So to be honest, I think in the last 4 years, I haven't worked in big companies in a very traditional waterfall approach. Mainly just for like very small projects for POCs, it makes sense to have a waterfall approach if you don't have a big team. But I mean, if you look at the bigger companies, like Scrum, and if you just think about Jira, almost everybody has Jira, right? So they are trying to work in a hybrid model, or at least in a Scrum model. But the question is always, I mean, if customers tell you, yeah, we work with Scrum or we work Agile, it doesn't really mean that they are really working Agile, right? Because almost everybody is saying, okay, we are working agile, but if you look a little bit deeper into it, it's maybe a mix of like agile and waterfall at the end. But it's,
Yes.
to be honest, it's kind of what I expected, this result.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with you, and yeah.
And just to clarify on the Jira note, so Jira doesn't mean that we are agile. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
it's the tool, and I know, as Andy mentioned already, that many companies use Jira and think they are agile while they are not. Okay, so I guess the majority has already voted. Let's go to the next one, and here we would like to really understand what types of API technologies you are working in your project. So you can select up to 5, I guess. And here we are offering different kind of technologies. Yep.
Now I'm very curious if we have gRPC, because we did the same survey also in Switzerland and nobody was using gRPC. So I'm wondering if somebody used gRPC as technology.
Okay, let's see. So far, it's still not. But also interesting that GraphQL is not used. Apache, Kafka, okay. But what you see on the left-hand side, Andy and Ravi, I think this is more than expected, right?
Yeah, but I see in some of the customers which are working, they are using gRPC. Yeah,
Yeah,
not a majority, but because there are some legacy systems they want to connect, and there are different scenarios wherein I see that they're still using gRPC.
Mhm.
Yeah, for majority will be
yeah,
definitely REST and other SOAP also. Yeah,
yeah. I think we have more SOAP now than in the last survey we did. I mean, I'm expecting also like RESTful APIs to be like the number one, but also FTP and SFTP file transfers are, I think in almost all of the project that I'm working on, we have like some kind of FTP service where we like transfer files. And yeah, we are trying to get away of those FTP and going more into the RESTful direction. But it's nice to see a lot of are using messaging queues clearly. Only one GraphQL.
Yeah.
That's a little bit surprising. Yeah.
And because the trends really, when we talked about the technologies and researched the technologies, it was really wide on the top. But we also see here 2MQTT. I was wondering what this scenario is. It really related to IoTs, or is it any kind of what are these use cases behind those? So if someone can write into the chat, this would be also awesome to know.
yeah, yes.
More.
Please try to chat in our chat window.
Okay. So I think this is more than expected. The result REST API obviously is a market standard. So GraphQL is only one, surprisingly. But let's see. Maybe we do a similar survey next year. It might be increasing.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. And this is about, how do you manage your APIs today? And we want to know this because in one of the trends, we have something to share. So majority as we see it, I think API gateway is still, one of the leading. API lifecycle management means really from the ideation to the deployment and security, you cover every step, different versioning, or you are not managing API at all, where you say, okay, everyone is free to do his own things and don't care about um, the API governance. So what's your take on this, Andy? What do you expect here to be the result?
Yeah. So maybe to clarify, it's about like the life cycle, right? It's not about the API like the API management with API manager or APG, for example.
It's both, I guess. It's, the API,
Okay.
how do you manage APIs? API lifecycle management, in my opinion, it includes the whole API management like you have
Mm.
with the gateway. So it's really everything you can have.
Yeah. I think I'm expecting this kind of solution. So it depends on the maturity of the customer. So if you just start with the projects, you're probably not going to cover the entire API lifecycle management. But if you are already working with some kind of technology, like, I don't know, MuleSoft, and you're already doing it for 1 or 2 years, you get more and more mature in this entire API lifecycle management, right? And you start to add more things, more features. Yeah, it's like the normal project development.
And the trend is really clearly going towards API management.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
API management is not enough from the policy perspective. So you need to have more than only just the governance part. But we are going to talk about this later on in detail a bit. So let's move on to the next question, which is how do you implement your API today? And this is also, I think, exciting for me, especially coming from, the implementation part. Code first is where you build your API first, and then you don't think about the description, you don't think about the consumer. Design first is really where you think about your consumer, you specify and prototype your API first, and then build it. And design test first is like you design your prototype, you build also the contract testing and the testing itself, so you have the quality part covered as well, and then you do the implementation, which results obviously in a high quality API implementation. So it's this is super surprising. So this is how it is going to be today. Andy?
Yeah. I mean, it's very nice to see that. I expected to have some like code first approaches, but yeah, I mean, it's clearly everything is going into direction of like test driven approaches. So you really design and you write the test first before you do the implementation. I actually see in like all of my current projects the design first approach, maybe sometimes even code first, because if you start with a new technology, let's say with MuleSoft, the developers, they start building first the code because they want to know the platform first and how to develop it. And the more experience they have on a tool, the more they start with design first, right? So if they know the platform good, they're gonna start with design first. They're gonna start with the REML specification. They will create the mockups. But it's clearly direction of design first. I don't know a lot of customers which are really having a testing driven approach at the
So I've
moment.
seen not at MuleSoft, I've not seen it, but in the past, just application development, the test-driven
Yeah.
and even the behavior-driven development was really more in focus instead of just implementing first without having the testing done. So test-driven approaches, I think it's going to come soon, also in this API world.
There is also a good comment in the chat section. So code first are mostly used for pure schedulers based application. That's right, because you don't have a specification. So you cannot really design an API specification first. So yeah, for schedulers, you somehow need to start with the code directly.
Yes. All right, so let's go to the next question, which is where do you deploy your APIs today? And this is really super flexible. So you can do in the cloud, which is the easiest one, hybrid, cloud and on-premise, or you go on-premise. And I think hybrid also includes this, or cloud includes also this multi-cloud, where you can have more than one vendor like AWS or Azure, where you deploy your different APIs.
I also see that
Preferably,
most of the clients are going towards hybrid, right? Earlier, people used to select either hybrid or on-premise. Now I see people are thinking first they're starting with either with cloud or on-premise. Then they're slowly realizing uh, when projects are when their scope increasing, right? Then they're going for the hybrid.
Yeah, I agree with Ravi. So usually, I mean, it also depends on the customer because, for example, in Switzerland, like the financial industry, like the banks and the insurances, they don't want to keep the data in the cloud. So they mostly go with like an on-premise approach or like RTF, like runtime fabric deployed on their data centers. But mostly if customers are not data sensitive, they deploy to the cloud first, like Cloud Hub on MuleSoft. And yeah, and there is clearly a direction more into the hybrid model.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was also exactly expecting this, this stare where cloud will be leading. And we see also, we are talking to many customers who are currently in on-premise. They cannot get rid of on-premise application due to legacy implementation. So they want to go towards hybrid. So the trend is clear. And there are obviously customers who are only on cloud, and they have this clear cloud first strategy where nothing will be evaluated first than the cloud.
And I mean, to be honest, if you deploy to the cloud, me as a developer or as an architect, it's really easy because you don't need to take care of the infrastructure at the end. If you deploy naked mules to servers, you need to manage the clusters, or you need to manage the Kubernetes and clusters for RTF, which is sometimes quite a lot of effort. And in the cloud, you just don't care about the infrastructure. You just deploy it, it redeploys automatically, you can scale it, which is very nice. Yeah.
All right. So now let's go to I think it's the last question. Is it the last question? So it's about how do you request access to APIs? So it's you say you have a defined process where you say, okay, you go to the ops team, some documentation in Confluence, self-service using API portal, or never thought about that. So I think we are expecting self-service, but let's see what will be the overall result. So what do you think about documentation in Confluence or IT Ops team? Andy, have you seen this in projects, or have you implemented any customer projects with this?
Yes. So, I mean, regarding the documentation, it's always a big discussion because usually developers, they don't like to document things, right? Which I somehow understand, but there has to be some documentations, because if you have like new people in the team, if you want to look something up, you need some kind of documentation. And I really like the approach of everything which is created by the REML. So like all the endpoints, how the data should look like, it should be automatically somewhere in an open API specification or REML specification. And like designs or architectures should be documented somewhere in Confluence. And to request access, I have seen both. So I have seen like client IDs and secrets in Confluence. I usually don't like this approach because, I mean, you don't want to have like everybody with client IDs and client secrets on Confluence and everybody can use them. So I usually like the approach of having like some kind of API portal where you can request access, and then you have maybe an administrator like approving like all the different accesses.
So with manual approval and automatic as well will not be the big difference, right?
My observation is
Yeah.
that suppose in our integration you have multiple source and target source systems, right? Let's assume that then I see that they are not going through self-service because IT ops team, they are doing it because every time new persons comes from third-party systems, right? They don't know. They need to educate them how to do the self-service. So these people are actually creating on behalf of them and sharing with them. I know that that's not a good practice. Suppose if you see, suppose the system who are going to use our APIs, right? If they are limited people, they know it, they know how to do that. we can directly use our public portal and ask them to directly
Exactly.
self-service. Yeah.
Mhm.
Apart from that, yeah, as you said, self-service is the best, but still going for the other options.
Yeah, just to have
Yeah.
governance around it, so everything is secure and safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes partners or external systems, they don't have access to the self-service portal. Yeah, that's completely right. Yeah, maybe regarding that, I mean, in MuleSoft, we have like the public portal where you can make the APIs public. And there is this new product coming, which is called API Experience Hub. And it's going to be a mix of Exchange and Anypoint Community Manager, so ACM. I'm very excited of this one. So we're going to have the possibility soon to create our own portals and to have also like public access then to the different APIs.
Yes, and I think this is super unique from the offering perspective because publishing APIs, making that available as a product to consumers is super cool. But now, if you can now leverage discussions around what you are building, having questions from the participant directly logged into a experience hub, this is really something which will drive the API economy.
And this what product that you said that's going to release?
It's called API Experience Hub.
Okay,
I
okay,
can
good.
post
Yeah.
a link in there.
Yeah, I also realize the fact ACM is an excellent tool, but because that is a complete sales force cloud, I think
Yeah.
people are not able to use. We agree that it's a different licensing and all, but I think this product may definitely feature will definitely help. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge we have seen at our customers because they released ACM and most of the customers, they thought, okay, we can just like use this portal very easy and we can configure it. But the case at the end is that we need to have Salesforce developers, we need to have Salesforce Community Cloud licenses, and it can be like a very complex project at the end. I think it makes sense to use ACM if you are a big company and if you want to like configure everything into very details in the front end. But that was actually not the reality. And now we are coming onto the market with this new product called API Experience Hub, which is basically taking the best of ACM and the best of Exchange and unifying everything on Anypoint platform. So the feature will be in Anypoint platform and you're going to have like an option to create the public portal out of it.
Cool.
Okay, but
Yeah.
this is not a part of Salesforce, right? That is an actually MuleSoft build it. Yeah, then it's good. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
It's fully integrated into the Anypoint platform,
Yeah,
and
excellent.
more will be announced very soon. Yeah.
Great.
Cool. So let's see. We still have one more question. I remembered it, which is type 3 things you would like to improve. Also something we want to collect, something you have seen maybe in one of your last projects where you say, okay, security was not so good. We want to go towards more security-centric solution, or things you have seen and you want to improve adapting API portal. So everything falls into it. If you say it's right about adapting a methodology like test-driven first or these kind of things, just type it in, and we want to see what you would like to do if you had the chance to improve something. So Andy, what would you improve, by the way, if you have the chance now?
In my current project, sometimes a lot of things. What I see a lot is, for example, customers not having any kind of API manager. And they are building the policies with MuleSoft, for example, into the flows. So they are using the Spring components, applying basic authentication. And I mean, it's okay if you start with it, but if you want to apply very flexible policies, if you want to change them, it absolutely makes sense to have any kind of API manager. And what I also see sometimes is that people are building a lot of logic into process APIs. So they are almost like using MuleSoft process APIs as BPM tool, like business process management tool. And what I usually tell them is like, keep the integration lean, reusable, and composable. So like all the logic which doesn't have to be in integration, externalize it to some kind of tool like Salesforce or so, and keep the integrations lean. Yeah. And then always CI/CD is always a big topic as well. Yeah.
This is good because we see the same topics here, but interestingly, the M unit is also here. So how does it look like in your projects? Do you use M unit projects or M unit tests, or completely same? Not yet.
It also depends. I think the mature customers are using MUnit, but I would say all the customers which just started with MuleSoft are not using it, because they sometimes don't see like the sense of using MUnit, because it's quite an effort in the beginning. I mean, you need to write the tests. You also always need to change the test sometimes if you change the code. Quite a lot of effort, but I think if you have like a mature setup, if you have a clear process, it absolutely makes sense to have M units, because at the end it improves the quality of your code.
Definitely. And M unit can help you drive this test driven approach first. You said you have to change the M unit test when you change the code. So normally if you do it with test driven, it would be you define your M units first, then you build your implementation, your flows. And if your M units are still failing, you still have to adapt your code and tune your code until the test cases pass. And with this approach, I guess you could, on long term, you could accelerate even not only the quality but also the implementation speed.
In most of the project, as per my understanding, wherever you have CI/CD, definitely they are going for the M unit by default, because that is one of the checkpoint. That I know that if you look at 2 years back, many people not used M unit, but I see, in my opinion, most of the people by default they're taking as an M unit, because developers also more acquainted. I know that M units also there are good features that's coming up. I see that people are not utilizing those features full fledged, but without M units, I don't see any other people are doing. CACD is there, definitely M unit is the must. Like that, customers are looking after. It's in my opinion.
What do you think about other things you can see here, like API-led approach? Okay, complexity. We have analytics, performance, domain projects.
I see like using templates and use best practices, or for example, exception handling. And I think this goes everything into the same topic, and it's like reusable assets at the end. What I really like, if I start a project, is to provide like reusable assets, for example, API specification templates or error handling templates or logging templates. And you define in the beginning of your project like the common error handlers, the common logging, the common templates which you will be using then on all the projects. And this really ensures to keep the best practices then in your implementation. And all those things for me, they fall into like the same kind of topic at the end. And this is like a reusable asset.
Okay. Cool. Then thanks a lot, community. Awesome results. So we are going to switch back now to the presentation and show you what we found out. Obviously, it's not, we did not ask you 100% the same question what we have researched in on the net, and came up with these 12. Yeah, it's 12 trends we found out. You see couple of things like API Design First and API Product, API First. So this is still there. It's not nothing which is new, but I think the sensitivity on organization realizing that this is the way to go is increasing. The awareness is increasing, and also Postman recently released a survey where they have asked around the globe their community, and the result was that 67% of people responded that design first is something they are looking as key methodology approach when implementing API in this year. And this is also what we found out now in our discussion. So design first is really something which can validate not only that you have a API build which is meeting your consumer expectation, but also when you build APIs and you share them as a product with API first approach, you make them available to consumers. And now these consumers need to use your APIs. So you have to find also out what are your consumers. And this is where design first comes in. You know, when I have built an API, I'm sharing it with many people, and now Ravi is using this API as well as Andy is using this API. I have no clue how Andy is using, and I have no clue how Ravi is using it. So what Design First additionally does here is they apply a contract, so you get to know your consumers. I can then find out through Design First that Andy is using, maybe he is only interested in two fields of a specific resource, while Ravi is taking care about multiple resources and is working on specific data models on my API. So these kind of things I can find out with the design first approach, where API first is really about putting APIs as a first class citizen and implementing it in a way which is agile and lean. The second one here, which we also thought is quite interesting, and we have not seen it in the survey with the community, is the zero trust approach. So zero trust is also something which is super exciting now, as Gartner has predicted that the majority of attacks on web applications will be through the API surface, which is not surprising. And many customers are now opening up, because you see in the COVID times, it's not anymore you as an employee who enters a building and then you have access to every resource as part of your organization. You are coming from everywhere. You are coming through VPN, you are coming from internet, you are accessing the cloud, your organization implementation or data is exposed to the cloud. So all these topics are bringing new security risk, and we need to always take care that confidential data is secured for the organization. So zero trust is also something which is now rising up on the trends. And here I want to pause for a second and ask Andreas and Ravi, what is your take on this security approach?
Yes, in my opinion, yeah, you rightly said. Earlier, we used to have like any API, only one layer used to expose. Now we don't know, because we don't know which API or which service is going to be used by anyone. At the same time, we can't to run our business. We should see. I think the basic concept is that don't trust anyone, but at the same time, if you don't trust, we can't do the business. Do apply policies each and every layer, so that what happens is that so for every API, every entry point for an API is an untrust. So apply the policies and expose to the people so that they start using it. Yeah, it's really very good concept. I know that it's very difficult. Explain it in very few minutes is a very big topic. Yeah, to understand the concept behind it.
Thank you, Ravi. Andy, anything to add?
I agree. I agree with Robbie. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is also not a surprise: composable business, share and reuse. And here I can say from my experience, where we are talking to customers, this is a real topic. As they struggle in this area, APIs are being built and they are not really in a way they can reuse. So there's a saying in MuleSoft and also in the market, your API has no value if it cannot be reused. And I think this is really the case where composable business comes in and try to find out all the capabilities and IPs your organization has built, not even APIs, any kind of automation solutions or bad jobs, whatever things you have built as your implementation, you can make composable to help future projects drive acceleration towards the delivery time. This is where composable business is focusing on. And we have heard from Andreas and Ravi also during the survey that this is something they see a lot also in the projects happening right now. Anything to add, Andy or Ravi? Feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I see it more and more. What's really interesting is that usually if we start with a MuleSoft project, we only start in like one of the departments. It could be like IT or IT services. And then we start to build the APIs, the endpoints, in order to get, I don't know, for example, customers to get the products. And then it somehow spreads over all the company, and they are talking to each other and saying, okay, we have an endpoint. If you want to get your customers or the products, just use it, right? And then we go like over the business group to all kind of business area of the company at the end. And this is the composable business, right? So you create assets, you create endpoints, and at the end, everybody in the company wants to use it or should use it then.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next one, we talked about it, so we are not going to talk now about it. We have a slide later on. API Lifecycle Management is also one trend. Hyper Automation we have not seen in the survey. So Hyper Automation is also coming up more and more. It's, for me, it has been a buzzword for 2022 because everyone is now talking about it. It's not only about RPA, it's about automating with capabilities you have. It could be no code, low code capabilities. It could be API specific capabilities, RPA specific capabilities, just with the overall goal to increase productivity and efficiency for your organization, to automate as much as possible with expert users, but also with citizen developers who are not so familiar with technology and so deep into programming. So this is what the overall goal of hyper automation is. And we will see a lot of things as MuleSoft has put this also on its agenda and roadmap to bring a solution here. So then we have here also low code and no code with AI and ML. So majority of these tools, they provide capabilities, and APIs are really acting as enablers for these solutions. So it's they are there to improve and help in innovating these. We have more here also business technologist, which is also a role which is evolving more and more. It's not someone who is sitting in the IT, it's outside of IT, but someone who understands the business capabilities, who understands the business processes, but needs low code implementation to drive innovation. So this has been increasing in the last few years, and now it is really formed to this role, business technology. So I think we are going to see a lot of in this area in 2022. We have multi-cloud, multi-protocol. I think this is also something where MuleSoft is super keen on supporting. So multi-cloud, you can deploy basically on multiple cloud environments, and this is where organizations are looking into. They don't want to have this vendor lockdown, just only Azure or just only AWS. They want to have this flexibility based also on the technology and developers they have. They are providing this cloud capabilities. And multi-protocol is quite, we have seen it in our survey, multiple protocols are being used. So there's not something like you have to use REST or you have to use GraphQL. Everything, REST will die and GraphQL will survive. No, it's really a multi-protocol time, and it's not going to be one for everything. So you have to have this combination and healthy adoption of different protocols. And the last one is here the communities, API portals. Yeah, it's not only about what we have already right now with the API portals, publishing APIs, making it available and reusable to the community. It's really about also building communities with discussion forums around it, documentation, additional architecture components, as well as having possibilities where users could even log questions and get answers for increasing the developer experience. So all these trends we have researched, and we are going to now have a further discussion on the top five, because we see they require more understanding in the market, and we see also they can provide huge value. And we are going to start with the design first, go then to the Zero Trust, Composable Enterprise, API Lifecycle Management, and also get the feedback from Ravi and Andy on Hyper Automation. So what is it about? Are they seeing something in this area? So let's continue with the design first approach. And design first has been there now, it has been for a long time. But in order to really understand its capabilities and its value, we have to see what are the drawbacks, basically, when you are having a code first approach. So there are many drawbacks, but I want to highlight this specific one, as I have been in the software development and the whole implementation part for the last 5 years. So this is a simple, high level release implementation where you can see you have 6 sprints, you have different teams who are working on different artifacts. So API team need to implement the different APIs, and there is a delay between API and UI. So UI is starting a bit later, because you can only build UIs once the APIs are available. I'm ignoring the complete mocking of the UIs here. And in between, you have this idle time for UI development. So let's assume you start directly with implementing your APIs here. So you could not do any kind of prototyping. You just go into the code first approach and identify, oops, there are maybe some reasons, could be security reasons, or maybe not, the systems are not available, you have any performance issues. So you need to delay the content you have planned for sprint 1 into sprint 2. So everything you have planned in the sprint and in the next sprints will move one sprint later. And this has an impact because now, as you have shifted the sprints, the UI implementation is causing delays. In the front end, you cannot directly start here, and you have to move also the whole UI implementation. And obviously, you have then a project delay between or for a sprint, and which causes also the project delay to the overall app delivery. And this is one of the major things which are causing problem when you are going directly with a code first approach. The same if you would do it with a design first approach, you would have the same implementation timeline and the teams who are working on the different artifacts. You start with the API design first. Now, instead of building your flows or writing your code and working on the API, you see, okay, what are the design specification, how my API looks like when I prototype it, including the mocking service. And then you really come up and provide this mocking service. So you could shift more. So this would be the plan, but you would shift more because now you are not implementing, you are specifying all the things you need to have. And this would allow you to get in contract with your consumers, build contracts with your consumers where you can ask now the integration guys, what do you need? Does it match to your requirements and expectation? You can ask the UI guys to understand, okay, this is what we are going to provide from API. You can get the contract set here, and they can start directly working in parallel while you keep on working on your APIs and implement, and you can really shift left from the implementation side and have a faster delivery and higher quality. The whole thing which validates which allow you to be more agile with the test first approaches and working in parallel. This is what API design can give you on benefits beside all this reusability and high developer experience. So that's where I, from my point of view, see big benefits of API Design First. And just a summary here. So if you would go with a traditional model, it will cause you the problems we have seen with the drawbacks on the code first side. But shifting left with the design first approach will not only enable you to get your consumer contracts set, but also allow you to increase the quality or even adopt test first approaches, and provide a better implementation and get the better customer and consumer experiences here. So now, this process is really key to the success of great APIs with a nice developer experience and a consumer experience. But what are the tools MuleSoft is providing here? And here I want to hold for a second and ask Andreas and Ravi, any ideas? What do you think, or what have you seen or implementing in your projects where you say, okay, these are tools which are helping us? So we have seen in the slides the mocking service. Obviously, this allows you to share the API experience with the customers, but any other tools which are there to support the whole process?
Yeah, I mean, there are, for example, the design center where you basically design the entire specification and you create out of it the mocking service. Those are all design first approach. Maybe, Amir, I unfortunately need to leave now for the next meeting.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you very much, guys, for your time.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much.
To being
Thanks
here.
again, Andy.
See you soon.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And guys, I see on my clock, sorry, we are running a bit out of time. So just let me quickly summarize, Ravi, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Speed up a bit here.
Yeah.
So, you have, as Andy said, the whole design center part, mocking service, API portals, but then you have also the whole thing around MUnit. If you want to adopt your test first approaches, you can start with MUnit, design your test cases first before you implement your API. And this has really a great impact. You will see, first of all the test cases failing because you have not implemented the API. But then once you implement the APIs, you validate it again and again against the MUnit test, you get the green lights and you see all the different resources which are implemented. So MUnit are really something which can help you to bring in quality in the design first approach and make also the testing smoother for you. So now going to the next one, which is Zero Trust. Yeah. So traditionally, we have seen it. We walked into our company buildings and then we logged into the machine plugged in our PC. So we had access to all the resources we were basically using. And the drawbacks of this is with the cloud and with the transformation moving to the cloud, with digital transformation, and also now with COVID, things have changed. So the whole API gateway, which we were having like a big wall securing everything which is inside, is not working anymore, because if somebody is accessing from everywhere, if they break into your security and bypass this gateway, they have basically horizontally and vertically access to all the APIs which are exposed here. And this is super dangerous in today's time where everything is implemented in the cloud. So here the sensitivity is there to make sure that you apply an approach which secure every API in itself, by providing the user propagation. MuleSoft provides different kind of solutions here with the API policies, where you can adopt different kind of policies out of the box, first of all, but also if you need to implement your own policies, you can build custom policies to make sure that your custom security, your organization specific securities requirements are met, so you can drive this further. So this is something which is coming now more and more. And if hackers are coming now, they need to go through all these layers instead of getting access to the data which is streamed by the backend. So they cannot just enter a wall and have access to everything. They really need to go through everything. And if you secure your APIs here in itself with a built-in security, you have a quite good implementation. So we'll summarize this quickly. So we have talked about the zero trust approach, where you make sure that every API is secured in itself. You support the overall organization compliances initiatives, reduce the risk of data breaches, especially breaches which can cause from the cloud implementation. And yeah, so let's go to the next one, which is the composable business. Yeah, also here, Andy and Robbie, we have discussed this, being able to provide reusability to your APIs makes the API valuable. Allow other projects to benefit from what you have built before, so they can accelerate in their initiatives and drive the transformation faster. And also think about transformation of the center of excellence to center for enablement. Could be a topic we can talk about in a complete separate meetup slot. Center for enablement, teaching the organization to reuse the assets and drive the business initiatives faster to provide the right transformation. Yeah. Okay. So second last is the API Lifecycle Management. Also, we are not talking about only the API management things from traditionally where only policies are adapted on top of this gateway. Now we are talking about the whole API implementation from the ideation from the ideation to the prototyping, then the testing, designing, development, and then deploying and operating, and then engaging with your participants. Also, parallel of different versions of deployments are required here. Reusability of sharing, role-based access to artifacts. It's not through the API itself, but organization who are working in a more API as a product mentality, design first approach. They want to reuse also what others have built, and in some cases maybe a project is more sensitive than the other, so you can publish the API to the overall organization, but you don't want everyone to reuse it or use it. Then you can have also this role-based access where MuleSoft is providing all these capabilities to the business groups and implementation. Now let's go to the last one, hyper automation. So this is basically with the overall goal to increase the operational efficiency and productivity. Anything is allowed. It's not about RPA, it's not about APIs only. It's really about the goal of increasing the automation for your organization, where different tools are being adapted from low code, from RPA, from APIs, business process management, machine learning, to increase the automation needs. And also, it's not only focusing citizen developers or expert automation engineer, it's bringing everything in with one single goal for the organization to increase the automation. And sorry, guys, I've been not on time, delayed a bit. And actually, this is also the end of the presentation. Ravi, we have still time for the quiz.
Yeah, yes, Amit. Yeah, this is a very important and very useful topics. I know that. Yeah, thanks for covering all that.
Now, sorry again for the delay. We went out in the discussion.
We are on time. This 1 or 2 minutes not a problem. We can directly go to the quiz. Yeah, thank you very
Yes, so
much. Yeah.
you're welcome. So let's again get your mobile out and scan this QR code. So you will land on a Menti